The evaporative emission, or evap purge solenoid valve, is used to purge fuel vapour from the evap canister to the intake manifold. This is an essential part of the modern vehicle's emission control system. The evap purge solenoid valve is pulse width modulated. The engine control module, or ECM, controls the solenoid valve by grounding the control circuit with a solid state device called a driver. The driver may be equipped with a feedback circuit. The ECM can then determine if the control circuit is open, shorted to ground, or shorted to voltage by monitoring the feedback circuit. Ignition voltage is supplied directly to the evap purge solenoid valve from the ignition relay. This relay may be monitored for shorts and opens by the ECM. A short to voltage in the control circuit will cause DTC P0459. This DTC will run with ignition on and battery over 11 volts. Verify that the fault exists. If these are history fault codes, it may be necessary to use the vehicle's freeze frame data to reproduce the fault. Always confirm the battery condition and correct voltage before beginning diagnosis. Using a scan tool, navigate to the Actuations menu and operate the evap solenoid. The evap solenoid should make noise as the scan tool is commanding operation. At the evap purge solenoid connector, back probe the control circuit with one channel of the scope. Using a scan tool, actuate the evap solenoid at 50% duty cycle. A square wave duty cycle pattern should be evident. The pattern should pull down to 0 volts and then return to 12 volts. If the pattern remains at a constant voltage or does not pull down to 0, then there may be a short to voltage in the control circuit. Move the probe to the ECM connector and back probe the control terminal. Disconnect any other connectors in the circuit systematically while observing the scope. If the pattern returns to normal, then the short is after the last disconnected connector. To check for a short to voltage, disconnect the evap solenoid and connect the meter between battery negative and the control terminal of the evap connector. Turn the ignition on and read the meter. The meter should display 5 volts from the monitored circuit. If any voltage is present significantly greater than 5 volts, then there may be a short to voltage on that circuit. Turn the ignition off and disconnect the ECM. Turn the ignition on. If the voltage has disappeared, then the short to voltage is in the ECM or another circuit from the ECM. Turn the ignition off and test for continuity between the evap control terminal at the solenoid and every other terminal in the ECM connector. If there is any reading other than open circuit, then the short to voltage is in that circuit. If all circuits test OK, then the short to voltage is in the ECM. If the voltage was still present with the ECM disconnected, then the short is in the harness between the evap solenoid and the ECM connector. Systematically disconnect any other connectors in the harness to isolate the short. If the harness and ECM test OK, then the short will be in the evap solenoid. To confirm a short in the evap solenoid, perform a resistance check between the two terminals on the solenoid. Compare it to specifications. If lower than this, then the short is in the solenoid. Once you have repaired the fault, clear the fault codes and perform the correct drive cycle for the DTC. Remember, understanding system components and operation makes diagnosis simple. Thanks for watching.